Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Peter Christian. I'm here with the host of the show, Diane Beck, with Windermere Real Estate. Diane has been helping buyers and sellers with real estate in the Missoula area for over 20 years and is very active in the Missoula community. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on NewsTalkKGVO.com. 98.3 FM and 1290 AM. Welcome, everybody. It's Missoula Real Estate Today. I'm Peter Christian, and I am joined by the fabulously talented Paige Pavalone, joining me back in the studio. It just seems like you were here not long ago. Talking about Missoula Works and the Interfaith Collaborative and the things that the folks that you've been working with. But I understand you've taken it a step higher. I know we had you on Talkback just the other day, talking about a program that has really begun to take off. So first of all, welcome back.
Thank you.
And for those of us our audience who were not with us before, let's do a quick recap of the outfit you work for and what you do.
Sure. So Missoula Works is a benefit corp, and we're owned by Missoula Interfaith Collaborative, and we were designed to be a fiscal profitability for Family Promise, which is a homeless shelter that we run for families here in Missoula. We started off as a staffing agency, and we've grown into something much, much larger. And
Can I ask you a little bit about the homeless shelter for homeless families?
Definitely.
Because I had not heard about that. And I know that there's a Pavarello Center, and we everybody knows about that.
Right.
And I think there's a shelter especially for veterans. Mm-hmm. A lot of folks know about that.
Yep.
But this is something that I bet a lot of folks don't know a whole lot about. Could you just kind of expand on that and what you folks do?
Sure. So the Pavarello Center exclusively supports it's curtailed to a lot of people, but it doesn't accommodate intact families. So that's what Family Promise is, the only shelter in Missoula that takes in intact families. So we're capped off at 15 people, unfortunately, because we just don't have the facilities to house more. But as we know, there's 400 children in our school districts that are chronically homeless. And to be classified as homeless in Missoula, you have to be sleeping inside of a vehicle. One of the first questions that they ask you upon intake is, where did you sleep last night? So if you said, well, I slept on my friend's neighbor's couch or something, you don't qualify as homeless. You have to be either sleeping outside in a tent or sleeping inside of a vehicle. So we have 400 children in our community that are qualified as critically homeless because they're sleeping in cars or in tents or outside.
And these are just children.
These are children, but they belong to homeless families.
Right, yeah.
So the Pavarello Center is not set up to accommodate families. They're just not. And no matter which side of the fence you come down on with the Pavarello Center, there is a real need to help families in Missoula that are homeless. And we have a waiting list. So I think right now we're serving 2 families. We had just had a grandmother with 4 kids, and she got into housing. And then there's been one family, they've been in our program for 8 months. And then we have a single father with a 9-month-old daughter. So he didn't qualify for any housing anywhere else because the other shelter that would take families is the battered women's shelter that's run through the YWCA.
Sure.
So there's no options. So we do have a vacancy now, but our list for Family Promise fluctuates between 35 and 40 families
that are on a waiting list.
That are on the waiting list to get into Family Promise. And the crazy thing about that to me, like as a parent and as a citizen of this community, specifically as a parent, is the how Family Promise is structured. And it is what it is. We're doing the best we can with the resources that we have. But Family Promise is structured in such a way that members of MIC sponsor or host these families on a weekly basis. So we just have a day center. It's right over here near Community Medical Center. So they go there in the daytime, and we have a couple of vehicles, load up the kids, put them in car seats, and drive them to a specific congregation where they're hosted with supper, and there's volunteers that are coordinated through that specific business or congregation, and they stay at that facility in the evening, whether that's St. Paul's Lutheran Church or St. Francis Church, and they're sleeping in offices and on couches in congregations in like the sanctuary or wherever. So it's just the opposite of what a child's upbringing should be. And what they have is what they can carry, right? Mm-hmm. So a kid doesn't have a bedroom, and they've got toys that they can carry with them.
Right.
So I think of this as a parent, and I try to empathize with the moms and dads in that program and how terrible that is. And the tremendous amount of people waiting to get into that program is remarkable to me.
Now, how many churches are there in Missoula? Do you know? There's got to be 80 or 90? at least.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah. And just imagine if every single church would open their doors to a homeless family,
right.
In whatever capacity they could, whether it's meals or spending the night or whatever. Because we have some very large churches. We have some very churches in affluent neighborhoods, the affluent families. Mm-hmm. I would think that if these congregations knew that this need existed, mm-hmm. that maybe they would contact their own leadership and say, why don't we do something about this?
Absolutely. And Peter, one thing, when I reach out to people, I ask a lot of friends and they hear, oh, MIC, what, they don't really understand what that is.
Right.
And it's just this amoeba of things that we do.
Sure.
But to participate in a capacity, so everyone thinks, well, they're going to ask us for money. They're going to ask us to sponsor. And sure, that's one of our asks sometimes, because that's what kind of keeps the lights on. That's what keeps us running and keeps us staffed. But as a single mother, there's things that I want to do to support this program. And then throughout that rotation of congregations that host our families, MIC takes a week as well. So about quarterly, staff members in our office, we sign up to host these families at a specific congregation. So the last time we did it was hosted at Atonement Lutheran Church, but we provided the meals and we provided the hosting for the families. So I may not be able to sponsor by writing a check to this organization, but what I can do, Peter, as a mom, is go into my pantry and make a couple things of casserole. Last time I had a ham that I got on sale at Albertsons, and I pulled that out of the freezer and I said, we're going to have a awesome mashed potato ham feast, and it costed me nothing to do this for this family and to feed 15 people. And the beautiful thing about being able to participate in that capacity is that you're with the families and you're integrating your children with their children, and just getting that experience of empathy and understanding and making those connections with folks as a mom to a mom, sitting down with a mom and being her advocate and hearing her struggles and sharing ideas and just sharing, anecdotes about parenting.
I will tell you that I think one of the problems is we are so far separated from the homeless right now. In that, for instance, I work 2 jobs. A lot of people I know work 2, 3 jobs.
For sure.
We get up in the morning, we wash our face, we go to work, we go to the other job, we come home, we crash on the couch. Oh my gosh, I don't have any energy.
Right.
But when we actually and so those people become like they're not real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but when you sit down with them to eat with them or prepare a meal for them and deliver it and sit and watch and play with the kids, I mean, all of that world changes that these are real people. I know their names. I know a little bit of their background. And so I can't walk away anymore,
No.
And so is that what kind of scares people? Sometimes they don't want to get into that situation where, I can't walk away anymore.
I think that could be it. And I think that there's just the stigma, too, associated with the homeless population. But, kids are just kids. So when we go and we host our meals, our kids are running around. And my little Frankie, she's 4. She doesn't know that little girl is sleeping in a church. She doesn't know that. They're just kids.
Right.
And they're just playing. So teaching that just to see without that perspective. And then, that innocence of just understanding people for who they are and just kids being kids. But then connecting, it's just a mom, and she's got these circumstances in her past. And there's really not much separation between what her circumstances were and what really separates us from, one paycheck from being homeless,
That's right.
And it's not for, with this, I'm thinking of there's one mom that I'm speaking about, and she's in my head, but to protect her identity and confidentiality. So I'm thinking of her and her children and how our kids got to know each other, and I knew her children's names, and she's in a house right now, which was like monumental for us last year.
Great.
But what was difficult for her is credit. You know what I mean? It was money.
Yeah.
She was in a financial prison. She wasn't using drugs. She wasn't breaking the law. She was trying to support her kids, and that's what got her jammed up. And you see this person walking down the street, and she had integrity. She was, did what she could, and she always looked nice, and her hair was done, and her kids were clean, and she was just a mom, who was trying to survive. And she's got, no child support coming in. Those of us that do are lucky. So these are, and she's homeless not because of errors and, mistakes that it's just happenstance.
Through no fault of her own, right?
Through no fault of her own, right? So, and just being able to see through that guise of what is homelessness, and then seeing that person, like this is just a period of this person's life, right? And they're trying to overcome that. And she is not homeless anymore. So
that's great.
She got out with the help of MIC.
I do know in visiting with Susan Hay Patrick with United Way about the 40 homes in 40 days that they're trying to do. It got so bad to the point where they had to come up with a program where they found so many homeless families. They need. I'm not sure where they are. This was about 10 days ago. I'm not sure where they are along that timeline. But the focus was to try to find these folks a home with all sorts of different incentives for landlords.
Oh, yeah.
Like the housing authority will pay the rent and all that good stuff. So I would imagine hopefully things are getting better.
Yeah.
Or not. I don't know.
I don't know, but that is the challenge. We were speaking when we were talking about employment the last time, how it's kind of a buyer's market. People can be picky in who they want to come and work for them, just like landlords can be picky. They don't have to choose somebody with a criminal history when they've got 15 other applicants that don't have one or have better credit. So they can be really, really selective, and that's the challenge. When somebody that has a voucher, a housing voucher, is just like, this is going to pay the mortgage and the electric bill for the next 5 years. I mean, so as I've been a landlord before, I'm just like, well, that's great. To guarantee that check is going to come and be put in your bank account to make sure that mortgage is paid for that specific unit. But yeah, because it's a buyer's market and it's so flooded and people can charge the prices that they charge. So it's just, how do you make those connections with specific landlords and convince them to?
And this is where, and I know I don't want to moralize here, but this is where I think it's important for people who own property, especially rental property, to take a step back, maybe take a step away from that profit motive and say, maybe is there one or two of my units that could go for something like this? And I've got maybe 50 or 60, maybe one or two or three or five that could help an organization like yours.
Right.
So I'm just throwing it out there, folks. So if there's some landlords or landladies listening right now and thinking, well, okay.
Right.
So anyway.
Right. So, and then to touch back on that too, the mom that I was thinking of, it took us, in our office, one of the moms or one of my coworkers, colleagues, she's also a mom. She reached out to a friend, just like a friend through a friend that she heard had a property. And she's like, hey, and just had this conversation with him, person to person, like, will you do me this solid? Like, we are just coming up against barrier after barrier after barrier, trying to get her into housing. She's got all of the pieces in place to get into a house. And then they had the state come in, that housing authority came in and they did an inspection. Then over a weekend, he made those amendments to the property and she moved in on Monday.
Wow.
This was like 2 weeks before Christmas. It was the most magical. I mean, and talk about people coming together. Like we talked to Pink Grizzly and they're like, yep, she can have a wreath and a Christmas tree. Tell her to come and pick out whatever she wants.
Wow.
So just to make those things happen right before Christmas was absolutely wonderful. But it took that like grassroots conversation.
So there are a lot of success stories out there, but there's still a lot of folks that need help.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So I know that you didn't come here to specifically talk about that.
That's okay.
But I know the Get It Done program is also very important to you. So let's talk about that.
Sure. So where should I begin with that?
Okay. Well, I know we spoke with you and your compatriot yesterday on Talkback the other day, and talked about these Get It Done crews and how you came up with that title.
Right. So last year when we started, we were just a staffing agency and we lacked. We had a tremendous amount of people that were looking for employment and work. They were coming into our office, 10, 15, 20 people. We had this humongous number of people that were looking for jobs. And we were trying to advocate for them and place them into different jobs, but we just hadn't had the volume and variety of jobs that we needed to place people for permanent employment. So when they were coming into us, it was that feeling of urgency, connecting with these folks, and they were telling us their story and like, this is why I need to do something because I need to get paid by Friday because A, B, and C. I'm losing my housing, losing my car, or whatever those circumstances were. So there was a pinch, right, that we felt running this organization, Missoula Works, and we said, well, we're striking out trying to get them permanent jobs. So then we said, well, we've got all of this insurance and licensure, and with Workman's Comp, you predict what kind of jobs people are going to be working in quarterly, and then you do the actual reporting and saying, okay, this person worked as a landscaper. We had this amount of wages earned in landscaping. So we had all of that insurance in place. We didn't have anybody doing it, though. we were just predicting, well, we'll probably hire somebody who's a landscaper. Anyways, we started calling up friends and colleagues and members of the MIC communities and saying, hey, we've got this specific person. We did a background on him or her, and they need a job. Can you walk around your property and see what kind of tasks that you have that this person might be able to come and work for you? And then it will be all done through us. We will be the mediating party. We're going to take care of all of the business and the paperwork end of it. And we're going to make sure they show up and do a good job. And there was just a huge demand for it. So this population of people was like, yeah, we've got tons of stuff to do. One person in particular, she's got this parcel of land out in Clinton. She was the first person that I called. And I said, hey, I've got this one person and he's willing to do anything. Like, he was in dire straits, needed money. And she said, okay, send me over a contract. She established what his wages were going to be. And he went out there and cleaned out her barn meticulously, beautiful, did a great job.
I have mucked stalls before. Ain't no fun.
Ain't no fun. Awful.
But it's work.
God bless his heart. Yeah, and he was willing to do that. And he was looking me in the face and saying, I will do anything.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, anything. Let's find anything.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. So that was just those projects that people need. And there is just a plethora of different things that you don't necessarily want to hire some kid off of Craigslist or some kid down the street. And you don't want to pay, professional landscaper wages or professional carpenter wages to come and rip out a few boards off your deck that's rotting out. We're something in the middle, right? So that it started last year at this time, and then it just grew into this mass. And it was just me. So I was running the temp to perm stuff and then the get it done stuff. And there was a clear identification, like we needed managers, we needed leaders for these crews. So we started pulling people in and identifying natural leaders that we had already had in place and moving them up and assigning them with different people that really needed that mentorship. So we can place them into a job and say, this is how, tuck your shirt in, and we need to show up to work late. And if you're going to smoke, you need to smoke in your car or over there. And really establishing what on-the-job etiquette was and that degree of professionalism, but also having understanding of folks that were coming in and, maybe not getting a break at a job, and just having that empathetic piece, that social worker piece.
I would probably imagine that once people are under a good manager and they start learning good work habits, and maybe they've never had a real job before, that there were certain things they've expected, like showing up on time and dressing nice and having good manners and saying please and thank you.
Right.
Maybe there are folks who maybe weren't raised that way, and so it is a new culture to them to go into the working world. Right. But I would imagine spending a little time with you guys and Michael and the folks that you have in charge, that makes them a better employee down the line, right?
Yeah, for sure. And everybody comes with their own series of demons or challenges that they're trying to work through.
Sure.
Some of them are in recovery. Some of them are coming out of prison or coming out of jail. And if they've been institutionalized and having to come back out into the, and be working and pulling weeds and just like, hey, we're just here to do a job, right? We're here to work and providing that opportunity for them and making those connections and building that camaraderie in the teams as well. So that was what the Get It Done crew was. And we had some different project managers over the years. And I erred in hiring, we needed construction workers. We need a construction crew lead. And that's not what we needed. We had a couple construction crew leads. We needed somebody like Martin. We needed somebody who was just like, I get it, and I've the patience of a saint.
Right.
And if this person's going to come in and they're having, some kind of a bad day and having high anxiety and maybe just being kind of flippant, that he's not going to fly off his rocker and say, get off the job, you're fired or whatever, but just like, hey, let's talk about this. Let's work through this.
Right.
So
in other words, this is a teaching moment.
The teaching moment. Yeah. And then that he's just so emotionally sound and having that emotional maturity to sit down and say, hey, this isn't the end of the day. Like, do you need to take the rest of the day off? Cool. Let's come back and revisit this and work through it, and he's done that so many times. Even folks that I was just like, gosh, this guy's bad for business. He's like, well, put him with me. He'll be okay.
Wow.
So he's just got that touch. Right?
What a gem.
What a gem for sure.
Yeah.
There's some folks that we can just have assigned to work with Martin because he knows how to do it. Right. Sure. So yeah, now that's, as we move into spring, we've got a bunch of stuff coming down the pike and jobs, and we're already starting to hit the pavement running. with spring cleanup. And
So what do you now? You're talking to a very large audience here, okay, on Missoula Real Estate Today. I keep hearing that everybody listens to this show.
right.
What is it that you need that our audience can help you fulfill?
So it's great that there's so many. I hope there's a lot of realtors out there listening because that's a huge niche that we fill. So just yesterday, for example, we got a call from a guy. He is a rental property manager, and there was a space and there was tenants, and they were bad tenants, and they left a bunch of stuff behind, and they left the place a wreck.
Right.
And, everything just needs to get fixed. He's like, I don't know how bad it is, but as soon as you can get in there and get it done so I can relist it, the better off we'll all be, and just send me a bill. And that's what we do. So we go in there, gut the place out, take all the leftover furniture and haul it off to the dump or donation warehouse or wherever it needs to go, recycle it, and then just on hands and knees and scrub and clean and do a walkthrough with the owner of the property. Does everything look good? No, go back and do this, and just get it sparkling and shining and new, so they're not losing money every day that place is not rented or on the market for sale. So those things a lot. And then just people that are getting ready to sell properties, realtors. Realtor referrals are super huge for us. So if a place is getting ready to list and they've got a half an acre of property that hasn't been mowed in 6 months, or it's this time of year and the snow's melted and we can see, all the leaves that we didn't get up last fall,
right,
call us and we can get it in tip-top shape by the time you have to list it.
Wow.
So all those projects, just a conglomerate of different things that people need help in a quick, efficient manner. So
now I know that there are a lot of businesses out there that do temp stuff, but when it comes to these, I don't want to call them honeydew or whatever. For instance, like I said earlier, I work two full-time jobs. Sometimes I just don't have time to mow my yard or to trim or to, I got a tree that needs in desperate need of help, and somebody wants to charge me $125. I said, I'm sorry, I don't have that much money. So there are things like that kind of fall in between that everybody has, right? Yeah. That they can call on you for.
Right. For sure. Yeah. With anything, I think this time of year, and if you've got a property with mature trees, I don't have a big yard, but I've got a bunch of aspens and cottonwoods on my property that need that trimming and need that cleaning. And then, if we don't get all of our leaves up in time, then there they sit come April. And you're like, oh gosh.
They're a lot of fun.
They're a lot of fun, and they're heavy. So we can get that stuff out of there for you. So it's that middle of the road stuff that, again, you don't want to get somebody off of the internet that you don't know if they have references or credibility or if they're going to come and try to steal off of you. And you also don't have to pay those super high-end professional wages for landscapers or...
Well, let me ask, are there jobs that your crews, that you don't want your crews to do, that you want to stay away from, like major projects, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the specificity of the job. So if somebody calls and says, I want you to create a deck, build a deck for me, we're not going to touch that just because and we've done it before because... We've learned the hard way, and we've taken on those jobs where we've had to draw city permits and consult with the city forester. And so they just require a lot of expertise, and we would rather refer you out to somebody who's really going to get that job done.
Right.
However, if you wanted us to come in and prep that site and get all of the grass out or the sod, or you need to have 2 tons of river rock removed from an area before you put in a stone patio, that's something that we can do because it keeps it minimal. It's still providing an opportunity for our employees to develop job skills. It provides work opportunities for us, but it stays away from that high-end price tag.
I would imagine that one of the things that might be really helpful for realtors and other folks who have large properties or whatever is basically to have, do you have like a little card that you can send out that people can put on the refrigerator and say, oh yeah, I need to call Paige because this would be a job that her crew could do?
Right. A magnet would be ideal. Yeah. And just like a laundry list of all the things that we can do. Yes, we can do that, but not that. So yeah.
And then a great big fat phone number.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great idea. And I envision that too. But we push a lot on our social media, and we do a lot of interchanging with sharing media with our different business colleagues with IE Recycling and Missoula Interfaith Collaborative. And we do a lot of that content creation and sharing amongst our office. Like we go into a staff meeting and did everybody share our recent post? Everybody get on Facebook right now and share that post with your friends.
Talk to me about IE Recycling. We kind of touched on this on Talkback the other day. This is fascinating. So tell me about that.
Sure. So IE Recycling is Martin, No Runner, who is the project manager of Get It Done.
Right.
He ran IE Recycling, and he ran it remotely for 2 or 3 years over in Helena. But he does curbside glass recycling and does also drop-off glass recycling. So he's one of the only places in town that has a glass pulverizer and crusher, and then he creates a glass aggregate that he then resells to be integrated into different projects, such as planting or into driveways or countertops. So he resells that off to like carpenters or things like that,
Sure.
and reuses that material back into the environment. So when he came on board, we were like, well, how can we come up with a partnership? And he's like, well, so I can dedicate my time to being the project manager and overseeing these crews at different places. I will use Missoula Works employees, and we're going to recruit for him, Missoula Works employees, to do his job for him and do that curbside recycling, that curbside pickup, and then taking it out to the site, which is out by the airport,
Right.
and actually pulverizing the glass and teaching people that skill.
Wow.
So we're actually recruiting for that right now. There's 2 vacancies available for a glass recycling technician, and it's Martin's job essentially. So he could really put his attention towards Missoula Works and have his hands on all the crews at one time.
So there's a plethora of things enclosed in this Get It Done, and of course the Missoula Interfaith Collaborative and Missoula Works. So there's a whole lot of things, a lot of moving parts in there, right?
Right. Yeah. And so the great thing about it is it's really remarkable to go into these congregations as we're trying to sell these services. We are meeting with not just congregations, but businesses and saying, so we do these 3 things. We're a staffing agency. We've got Get It Done. We're launching this recycling program. And to hear people perk up, because ever since Target has removed their recycling opportunity,
right.
people are like, oh my gosh, I'm dumping my bottles in the garbage, which is crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I come from Pennsylvania, and there's been curbside recycling for decades.
Right.
So to come out here, and here we are in Montana, and that we don't have that in place, those systems in place, is just really frustrating. So this really organic company, IE Recycling, is partnering with Missoula Works, and we're going to try to grow it, and we're going to try to put people to work and employ more people.
May I suggest, maybe you and I can work together, put together a public service announcement, send it out to all the radio stations, and just have them play it as part of and talk about IE Recycling. If you have glass recycling, call this number.
Yep.
Would you want to do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Martin does these things. I love it because everybody goes head over heels trying to create the most flashy content for their social media.
Doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. He's got words, glass recycling pickup in a date and a time, $3, and it's just shared 58,000 times. It's just like, wow, how do you do that? But that's the audience, and people are energized behind it, and they want to do something good. And I'll pay $3 to recycle a 5-gallon bucket, and the volume of glass that he receives when he has these glass pickups, he'll do it over at Safeway or wherever, and people will bring their glass to them, and it's already stored in buckets or however it is, and they pay $3 to have it recycled rather than go into a landfill, which is fantastic. But he fills a trailer in 45 minutes.
Wow.
I mean, so there's just a huge demand for it. Yeah. So how are we going to do this, and how are we going to do it right? So that's the next step for us.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got about a minute and a half left. Mm-hmm. So I always ask everybody this question: what is it that you enjoy most about what you do? Because I asked you last time too. So
well, I think our office is just the coolest office, and our coworkers they're just amazing. We bring puppies into work, and I have a bunny, and I brought the bunny into work, and there's kids running around, and phones are ringing. So we've got Vistas and practicum students and social workers and retirees and volunteers.
Give us some contact information.
926-3400, Missoula Works.
Okay, and where are you located?
We're inside of St. Paul's Church on the 3rd floor.
Okay, and is there a website?
Yeah, MissoulaWorks.com.
All right, and email?
Paige at MissoulaWorks.com, and then we're also on Facebook, MIC and Missoula Works on Facebook.
Perfect.
As well.
Always a pleasure.
Likewise, Peter.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. I really appreciate the work you guys do.
Thanks.
And that is going to do it for Missoula Real Estate Today. So until next week, hope you'll join us again here on KGVO, 1290 AM, 98.3 FM, and of course on the KGVO app. We will see you next week. Thanks for tuning into Missoula Real Estate Today. We hope you found the information over the last 30 minutes to be helpful. If you have any suggested topics for future Missoula Real Estate Today programs, or any questions about buying or selling real estate, please email Diane. Here's the address: It's Diane Beck at Realtor.com. That's Diane Beck at Realtor.com. We'll see you next week on News Talk KGBO.com, 98.3 FM and 1290 AM.